You either start covering my credit card payments or we're done, she said, flat and final, like she was asking me to take out the trash. It wasn't shouted, it wasn't dramatic. She said it while scrolling her phone, legs tucked under her on the couch we both paid for. That calm delivery made it worse, like she'd already decided this was reasonable. I remember staring at her, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. She didn't even look up to check my reaction. We'd been living together for almost 3 years. Shared bank account for rent and utilities. Separate personal accounts. That setup had been her idea early on, back when she said money ruined relationships. I agreed because it made sense. Clean lines, fewer fights. I worked a salaried job in IT. Nothing flashy, but stable. She worked in marketing, mostly freelance. Income up and down. When things were good, they were really good. When they weren't, I carried more of the load. Groceries, utilities, random shortfalls. I didn't track it closely, I just paid. The credit card wasn't new. I knew she had one. What I didn't know was that it was nearly maxed out. I asked how much. She sighed like I was being slow on purpose. Around 12 grand. Maybe a little more after interest. I laughed once, out of pure reflex. That's not around. That's a car. She finally looked at me then. Her expression wasn't embarrassed. It was annoyed. It's not that bad. And it's not like it's my fault. I had to put things on it when work slowed down. I asked what things. She waved her hand. Life stuff, trips, clothes, a few emergencies. Trips wasn't life stuff. I knew that. We'd taken one vacation together that year, which I mostly paid for. The rest were weekend trips with friends, Instagram heavy, hotels I'd never heard of. I hadn't asked then because she always said she had it handled. Apparently she hadn't. I asked why this was suddenly my problem. She set her phone down, slow and deliberate. Because we're a team, and if you actually cared about our future, you wouldn't let me drown in debt. There it was. The pivot. Caring equals paying. I told her I was willing to help figure out a plan, budgeting, cutting back, maybe a balance transfer. I said I could cover more household expenses for a while so she could throw extra money at the card. She shook her head. That won't work. The interest alone is killing me. So what are you asking for? I said, even though I already knew. I need you to just take over the payments, she said, at least until it's gone. How long would that take? She shrugged. However long it takes. A couple years, maybe. A couple years. $12,000. Plus interest. On spending I didn't approve, didn't benefit from, and didn't even fully know about. I asked if she planned to change her spending. She frowned. Why are you making this about control? That word again. Control. Anytime money came up, it was control. Me asking questions was control. Me hesitating was control. I told her I wasn't comfortable absorbing her personal debt. That's when the ultimatum hardened. If you say no, she said, I'll know exactly where I stand with you. I asked her to explain. It means you don't see me as your partner. It means I can't rely on you, and I'm not staying in a relationship where I have to struggle alone while my boyfriend sits on savings. That part stung because it was half true. I did have savings. I'd built them intentionally. Emergency fund, retirement contributions. I'd skipped a lot of things to do that. She knew this. She also knew exactly how to frame it to make me sound selfish. I told her those savings weren't for bailing out debt I didn't create. She crossed her arms. So you'd rather protect your money than protect us? It was amazing how fast us turned into a weapon. I asked when the debt had gotten this bad. She hesitated just a beat too long. Over the last year. That's not what your statement said, I replied before I could stop myself. Her eyes narrowed. You went through my stuff? No, I said. The mail came. I saw the balance. That was true. A thick envelope from the card company had been sitting on the counter for days. She hadn't opened it. I had because I thought it might be something important. The balance had been over 10 grand 3 months earlier. She didn't deny it. She just shifted tactics. Okay, so it's been building longer. That doesn't change the point. It kind of does, I said, because it means you hid it. I didn't hide it. I just didn't want to stress you out. I nodded slowly. That was another pattern. She decided what I could handle, then blamed me when her decisions blew up. I asked if there were any other debts I didn't know about. She rolled her eyes. Now you're interrogating me, I asked again. She looked away. There's a small personal loan. It's nothing. How much? Like 4 grand. So it wasn't 12? It was 16. At least. My chest felt tight, but my head was clear. This wasn't panic. It was clarity. I said I needed time to think. Her tone turned cold. No, this isn't something you think about. This is something you decide. I asked why the rush. Because I'm done waiting, she said. I need to know if I'm wasting my time here. That sentence sat between us like a loaded gun. I realized then that this wasn't about debt. It was about expectation. She believed my income existed to absorb her consequences. She believed commitment meant financial rescue. No questions asked. I told her I wasn't agreeing to take over her debt. She stood up immediately. Then I guess we're done. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just watched her walk into the bedroom and slam the door. I stayed on the couch, listening to her pace back and forth, already rehearsing whatever version of this story she'd tell her friends. That night I slept there, staring at the ceiling, doing math I never should have had to do. By morning, nothing felt shared anymore. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, asked if I wanted eggs, talked about a project deadline like we hadn't just detonated the relationship the night before. I let it play out for a few minutes before I said anything. So what's the plan now? I asked. She didn't look up from the stove. You tell me. I said I wasn't taking over her debt. She turned around slowly, spatula still in her hand. Then we're back to the same problem. I told her I was open to helping in ways that didn't involve me assuming full responsibility. I listed them again, covering more shared expenses temporarily, helping her restructure payments, sitting down with a spreadsheet and actually seeing where the money went. She set the spatula down harder than necessary. I don't need a financial advisor. I need a partner. That word again, used like a hammer. I asked her why taking responsibility for her own spending suddenly meant she was alone. She scoffed. Because I wouldn't let you drown if the roles were reversed. I didn't respond right away. I thought about it, about the times I'd been between jobs years earlier, about how I'd cut back, sold things, lived lean without asking anyone to save me. I wouldn't ask you to, I said finally. She stared at me. That's the difference between us. No, I said. It's the difference between entitlement and accountability. That's when her tone shifted from frustrated to dismissive. You're being dramatic, she said. This is what adults do. They support each other. Support isn't the same as absorbing, I replied. She waved her hand. You're splitting hairs because you don't want to help. I asked her if she'd stop using the card. She hesitated. I'd try. That answer told me everything. I asked if she'd close it. She laughed. Absolutely not. What if I need it? For what? I asked. Another emergency vacation? She snapped back that I was being condescending. I pointed out that she hadn't named a single concrete change she was willing to make. No budget, no spending freeze, no timeline, just me stepping in so she could breathe easier. She leaned against the counter and crossed her arms. Why are you so afraid of committing? I felt something settle in my chest. Not anger, finality. This isn't about fear, I said. It's about precedent. She frowned. What does that even mean? It means if I do this, I said, this becomes the expectation every time things get uncomfortable. And I don't want a relationship where my role is to clean up after decisions I don't get a say in. She shook her head slowly. You're overthinking. Once this is gone, things will be fine. Until the next thing, I said. She shrugged. Life always has a next thing. That was the moment I knew she genuinely didn't see the problem. I told her I was done sharing finances. She laughed again like I was joking. You can't just decide that. I can, I said. The joint account was for rent and utilities. I'll keep my half there until the lease is up. Everything else goes back to separate. Her expression hardened. So you're punishing me? No, I said. I'm protecting myself. She accused me of abandoning her when she was vulnerable. I reminded her that vulnerability wasn't a blank check. That's when she doubled down. If you walk away from this, she said, don't expect me to wait around while you figure yourself out. I nodded. I'm not asking you to. She looked genuinely surprised. I don't think she expected that answer. She tried another angle. So what? You're just going to let me drown? I'm going to let you handle your own finances, I said, like you always told me you could. She stared at me for a long moment, searching for leverage. When she didn't find any, her voice went cold. Fine, she said. Do whatever you want. I didn't argue. I went into the bedroom and packed a bag. Not dramatically, just the essentials. Clothes, laptop, charger. She watched from the doorway. Where are you going? To a friend's place, I said. For now. You're really doing this, she said, disbelief creeping in. Yes, she scoffed. Over money. Over respect, I corrected. She rolled her eyes. You'll regret this. Maybe, but staying would have been worse. I transferred my half of the rent and utilities into the joint account that afternoon. I canceled the automatic transfers for groceries and miscellaneous expenses. I removed my card from any shared subscriptions. Then I left. The first real consequence came faster than I expected. 2 days later, she texted me asking if I'd accidentally canceled the streaming services. I didn't respond. By the end of the week, she asked if I could spot her for groceries until a payment cleared. I didn't respond. I wasn't punishing her. I was simply no longer participating. And without my quiet financial buffer, the math stopped working almost immediately. Final update. I didn't hear from her for about 10 days after that. Not directly. What I did hear came through mutual friends, co-workers, and one accidental voicemail she didn't mean to leave me. Without my transfers, the joint account ran lean fast. Rent still cleared because I'd already put my half in, but everything else started bouncing. Utilities first, then her phone bill. Late fees stacked quietly. She tried to move money around. I know because I got notifications from the bank about attempted transfers from the joint account to her personal one. They failed. I'd already locked it to deposits only. She called twice late one night. I didn't answer. The voicemail was short and tight. No yelling, just controlled panic. She said the credit card company had frozen the account. Minimum payments missed. Interest recalculated. She said she needed help just this once to stabilize things. I deleted it. A week later, a mutual friend asked if everything was okay between us. He said she'd mentioned I'd checked out financially without warning. That phrasing stuck with me. Not left, not broken up. Checked out financially, like that was my primary function. I didn't correct him. I just said we'd gone separate ways. The systems she'd been leaning on started failing one by one. Her freelance work slowed further. Clients delayed payments. Without a buffer, every delay became a crisis. She tried to pick up short-term gigs, but those paid late too. The personal loan went past due. That triggered penalties I knew she hadn't planned for. She tried selling things online. I recognized a jacket in one of the listings. One I remembered her buying impulsively, insisting it was an investment piece. It sold for less than half of what she paid. The apartment stayed quiet. A neighbor I ran into mentioned she'd been asking about subletting her room. Not moving out, just trying to offset costs. I stayed out of it. 2 weeks before the lease renewal window, she emailed me. Not texted, emailed. The tone was different. No accusations, no ultimatums. She said she'd misjudged expectations and wanted to revisit how we handled money. She suggested we meet to talk things through calmly. I didn't respond, because nothing new had actually been said. She wasn't offering accountability. She was offering renegotiation now that the leverage was gone. The final consequence landed quietly. The landlord sent a standard lease renewal notice. Rent increase. Nothing dramatic, just enough to matter. She couldn't afford it alone. I renewed my half separately as planned, then arranged to transfer my portion directly instead of through the joint account. Clean, documented, done. She had 30 days to figure out the rest. I moved my remaining things out on a weekday afternoon when I knew she'd be gone. I didn't leave a note. There was nothing left to explain. The last message I ever got from her came a month later. She said she wished I'd been more flexible when she needed me most. I didn't reply. Flexibility wasn't the issue. I'd been flexible for years. The issue was that she'd confused access with obligation. Once that access was gone, everything she'd postponed dealing with arrived all at once. Debt doesn't care about intentions. Bills don't pause for feelings. Systems don't bend just because someone expects them to. I didn't get revenge. I got distance. And with that distance came something better than closure. Silence.